Welcome to 60 Skills. The subject of today's lesson is the electric and magnetic lines of force, static version. The electric and magnetic lines of force are lines in the body which are formed by an expansion or contraction of the ligaments and tendons in the body. Performance of this generates either a projective or a contracting force energetically. This force ends up being the basis for the four elements, the Kabbalistic letters, and the planetary energies. It has many parallels to the different body locks involved in classical yoga. Performance of the electric or magnetic line of force greatly enhances any and all energetic meditations. Over time, this also develops the tissue in the body, which makes all of your other meditations work better as well. So I look forward to your joining me on this adventure as we explore the electric and magnetic lines of force. Welcome to 60 Skills. What are the requirements for the electric and magnetic lines of force exercises? The only real requirement is that you have a place to practice. This is something that can be done out of doors, indoors, it doesn't really matter. Also, you need to be wearing clothing that moves comfortably. The reason for this is you're going to be using the positioning of the body to manipulate these lines of force. You will also need a chair, as we will cover both the seated and standing version of these exercises. Other than that, anyone can practice this regardless of their level of training, age, or gender. So please join me on this adventure where we learn how to use the electric and magnetic lines of force. What are the electric and magnetic lines of force? The electric and magnetic lines of force have many names in different meditative and yogic systems. Classically, this can be referred to as yin or yang. It can also be related to the different elemental meditations, such as fire and water. The bottom line is that the electric and magnetic lines of force are a way of using either an expansion for the electric or a pulling open of the joints for the magnetic. Holding these positions allows you to generate either a projecting sensation out of the hands or a contracting sensation into the body. The performance of these exercises also train the ligaments and tendons and soft tissue in the body, and over time their effects compound. Additionally, these exercises can be performed in a static manner, in a dynamic manner involving twist, in a further dynamic manner involving movement. In this course, we will eventually cover walking. The performance of these exercises greatly enhances the energetic and sensation-based effects of different meditations. So those of you who are interested in Qigong, Tai Chi, the more energetic forms of yoga, will definitely find these interesting. Many different systems only teach the electric line of force, and over time this can create some issues in a practitioner as their development will be one-sided. Additionally, some martial arts favor either the electric or the magnetic. Muay Thai or striking arts, for example, kickboxing is another one, favor the electric. Grappling arts like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or classical Japanese Jiu-Jitsu favor the magnetic. So there are both practical physical applications for this technique as well as more esoteric ones. The bottom line is that the fascia and ligaments and tendons move throughout the entire body and as a practical manner basically work as the conduit for subtle energy within the body. So the practice of these exercises allows you to improve all of your meditative and yogic practices. Because of this, it is quite valuable. Additionally, it allows you to greatly enhance the energetic sensation involved with other meditations. This will in turn greatly improve your abilities with the elements, the planets, or the constellation-based exercises. So the bottom line is there are many different reasons why you would want to train these. Next, we will cover some of those. Why train the electric and magnetic lines of force? Well, simply put, training the electric and magnetic lines of force greatly enhances your ability to perform any yogic or meditative actions. The reason for this is quite simple. As has been discussed in other coursework in this series, your ligaments and tendons and fascia tissue gradually become finer and less physically tangible. The things that are created out of this are your vital body, your astral body, and your mental body. For the purposes of what we're discussing here, even more importantly, the matrix, that astral, physical, and mental astral matrix that hold these three bodies together, are also connected by a kind of highly refined ligament or tendon tissue. So by training the electric and magnetic lines of force, you are training this soft tissue in the body, as well as its further developments in the more subtle realms of human existence. The result of which is the performance of any meditative or yogic activity is greatly enhanced by training these tissues. Okay, that's great from that perspective. Why else would I want to train this? Well, simply put, the ligaments and tendons in your body are what give your organs shape, and they connect your bones to each other. They also allow for the movement of the human body. So by training this tissue through expansion in the electric line of force and an opening or pulling sensation in the magnetic, you also enhance the functioning of your body. As a practical matter, people who train these things tend to be quite strong and have a great deal of damage resistance involving their body. For those of you that tend to have problems with lower back pain, I've met many people over the years who, through consistent practice of these exercises, have slowly eliminated that issue as well. So the bottom line is, there are lots of good reasons to train these. Let's talk about some more specific meditative and yogic reasons to train these. As was mentioned in one part of the introduction, training the electric line of force has a lot to do with classical analogies involving yang, or the projective force. Training the magnetic line of force has a lot of analogies to classical concepts like yin, or the contracting force. Your elemental forces, fire, air, water, and earth, or even akasha if you tend to go with the five-element system, all have an electric or magnetic component to them. By learning how to train this technology, you can greatly enhance the energetic or sensation aspect of working with those things. For those of you interested in a more astrological approach to things, this is also true regarding the planets and the constellations. The fact of the matter is, any of these subtle energies that you can generate have either an electric or magnetic component to them. Utilizing the proper body posture and series of body locks greatly enhances your ability to train these effects. So regardless of the yogic or meditative school you are from, whether it is Tai Chi, whether it is some kind of classical martial art, whether it is something like Shingon Buddhism or Ashtanga Yoga, learning how to use these electric and magnetic lines of force will greatly enhance your practice. It will also greatly enhance the strength of your body's structure. For the most part, people find that this makes them more healthy. In other words, a lot of minor problems they have tend to go away. For those of you interested in detoxification of the body, it also seems to be very helpful as well, as these soft tissues tend to tract a lot of junk into them. A pushing or pulling on that tissue tends to help shed some of this stuff. So no matter how you look at it, learning to train the electric and magnetic lines of force is extremely useful to any number of things. For those of you interested in classical hermetics, this is a required part of your training, as these body postures are closely related to how you will generate different subtle forces. So let us begin. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now discuss who can practice the electric and magnetic body postures static version. Virtually anyone who is an adult can do this. Men or women, regardless of age, can and should engage in these exercises, so there's no issue there. I would say children should probably not engage in working with these exercises. I have seen a tendency amongst practitioners who began their training at an early age to be a bit shorter than their parents were. I suspect this has something to do with causing the growth plates at the ends of the bones to close early. I do not know this, and it may in fact not be an issue. It is merely an observation that I've routinely seen, that people who began their training of the yogic and meditative arts early in life tend to not be quite as tall as their family members would indicate they should be. So this is to be kept in mind. Outside of this, if you're an adult and you are done growing, anyone can and should train this. However, and this is a very important part to keep in mind, you are doing this to aid the functioning of the body. If the joints hurt based off the position you are utilizing, you need to find another position to use. This is not a no pain, no gain situation. It is a if there's pain, there is no gain situation. That is not to say that over time you cannot utilize an increasingly aggressive effort with regards to this exercise. You can and should. What I'm saying is, if at any point in time there is pain in the hip, pain in the shoulder, pain in the joints, pain in the lower back, find a different body posture that allows you to continue to generate that particular line of force, be it electric or magnetic. Further on in this series, we will be utilizing twisting motions, movement, and resistance as applied to these lines of force. So you do not want to train your body, either consciously or subconsciously, to take on a body posture that is damaging to the joints. Particularly once we begin to add resistance to these exercises, you need to be extremely careful about how you position that weight. Because the simple fact of the matter is, when you are doing these things freehand, the opportunity for injury is rather limited. Once we begin to apply motion, as in the throwing exercises, or resistance, as in the weighted exercises, the potential for injury increases greatly. So please keep in mind, always maintain a safe body position. If it hurts inside the joint, you are doing it wrong. Let us continue. Welcome to 60 Skills. We will now practice the magnetic static seated exercise. You will notice when performing this exercise, many of the key details stay the same. Your back is straight, it is not touching the back of the chair, the legs are touching. Beyond this, there are many differences. So, to begin, instead of pulling from the top of the head, you are going to be spreading the back, as if somebody were grabbing you by the back of the head and the base of the spine and pulling those joints open. So instead of pushing out the top of the head you did with the electric, with the magnetic you are pulling the spine open. Next, the tongue remains on the roof of the mouth, where it was the first time. The back is straight, off the chair. The legs are pressed together. Again, the knees may or may not touch, depending upon your body structure. This time, the hands go over the top of the knees, and you pull the joints open. So what's happening is, if this is the knee, you are pulling the joint open. You're basically latching the finger over the top of the knee and pulling it open like that. That will create a magnetic line of force in the body. Finally, the feet, while touching, the weight is on the heel of the foot, and instead of the feet torquing outwards as they were in the electric, the feet, while touching, will turn inwards slightly. So the main differences here are you're spreading the back by pulling from the top of the head and the base of the spine at the same time. Your fingers are being pulled back against the knee, pulling the joint open. In the feet, the weight is on the heels, turning inwards. So when seen from the side, it will look like this. Again, the chin is tucked ever so slightly. When practiced over time, this will generate a slight inward pulling sensation. Let us begin. Spread the back, pull from the top of the head, base the spine, opening the vertebra up. Tongue on the roof of the mouth, chin tucked slightly, shoulders are down, legs are touching. Fingers are pulling on the knee, opening the joints up in a magnetic line of force. The weight of the feet is on the heels, and the feet are turned in slightly while touching each other. Hold this position. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through either the nose or the mouth. 1. We will do this 9 times. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Again, this is not a hard thing. Gently. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Feel the joints pull open. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. 3 more. Inhale. Exhale. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more. Inhale. Exhale. Now on your own, spreading the back, tongue on the roof of the mouth, shoulders down, legs together, fingers pulling on the top of the knee, pulling the joint open, feet touching, but torqued inwards, weight on the heels. Do this on your own for a few breaths. At a certain point, you should feel a gentle pulling sensation going into the body. Couple more breaths. Right, return to yourself. If you know how to, pour breathe. If not, just place your attention on your lower abdomen and breathe in and out a few times. This concludes the magnetic practice design with the electric and magnetic lines of force. Okay, as was mentioned earlier, some martial schools only teach one aspect of this or another. That kind of practice will be inherently imbalanced. As you will see in the practical portion of this course, performance of these exercises takes more than a little bit of effort. The result of which is, at a minimum, whenever you practice this, you need to practice both the electric and the magnetic aspect of this exercise. Additionally, you need to reverse the order in which you perform these. So if on one day you do the electric first, followed by the magnetic, then on the following day you need to start with the magnetic and finish with the electric. This is so as you tire when performing these exercises, you do not end up with a long-term imbalance because you've put most of your effort into one aspect of this and less in another. If, on the other hand, you come from a school where you did learn one of these, but you only learned one of them, what you are going to find is that one of these lines of force is far stronger than the other. From what I've seen anecdotally, working with these exercises greatly strengthens the ligaments and tendons in the body and greatly reduces the frequency of injury involving these things as well. So, the simple fact of the matter is they're a good thing to train. All right, there are a couple different versions of this exercise. There's the static version for both seated and standing, which we will learn today. There is the movement with twist version for both standing and seated. There is a walking version of this exercise. And there is a resistance-based version of this exercise as well. Once you have learned these four principles, it is easy to extrapolate different ways to train these things. But at a minimum, you need to be able to perform the static version of this. The good news is, with the static version, you're not using any resistance, so injuries are pretty uncommon. When you practice this, you are going to want to do holds. You're going to want to do holds of anywhere from 5 to 9 seconds per posture, and you are going to want to do a set of 9 postures. So ideally, you will do 9 sets of 9 of each position for the standing version of this exercise. For the seated version of this exercise, this is basically going to be a hold for time, where you assume either the electric or the magnetic posture. This will become valuable later on because you will be applying the electric or magnetic line of force to your various seated meditations. Which one you use will depend upon what you are choosing to work on. In Franz Barden's initiation into Hermetics, his mention of asana was his main contribution to this science. Here we're going to work on something a little more refined. Now, for those of you who practice Ashtanga Yoga or comparable systems, you will quickly be able to see how you can apply either the electric or magnetic line of force to those exercises. I cannot advise you as to which line of force you wish to use for each posture, so you are going to need to experiment with this. Students who have done this work, however, tell me that they have made amazing strides in their yogic posture practice. So this is something you should explore. And they said they were able to figure out which posture required either an electric or magnetic posture within a couple of months. So to sum up, if you are standing, you want to do 9 sets of 9 movements. If you are seated, you are going to be holding for time, with the ultimate goal being able to apply either a magnetic or electric body posture to whatever meditative practice calls for it. Let us begin. Seated, static body posture.